here at the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos. Really pleased now to be joined by Cori Lathan. She's the CEO of AnthroTronix. Now, tell me about the brain. Do we know an enormous amount, or is it that we aren't applying what we know about the brain?
Well, we know a lot about the brain, but we're not actually looking at the data. We're waiting until we're sick. We're waiting until we have dementia or depression or a concussion to look at the brain, when we should be looking at our brain our whole lives. I mean, we obsessively track body mass index from the time we're born, but we do nothing to look at the brain. We need a brain vital, and we have the resources to do that. There's tools that can actually measure your brain vital.
So tell me about that. What tools measure your brain vital?
Well, for a long time, we've done some paper pencil tests, but that takes time, and it takes a clinician, and it's not something we can really do ourselves. But we now also have computerized cognitive testing that is accessible to anyone on their mobile phone. My company has developed the Dana Brain Vital, which is FDA cleared, and someone can download it on their phone and track their brain health over time, but their clinician or their doctor can also look at it over time to see if the medication is working, to see if their health condition is improving, or that their health is not, they're not impaired.
And tell me what, I'm interested to know, sort of technology feels like it's one of the things driving this. For the normal person who has up days and down days and wonders, what's the difference between that day? Nothing particularly felt different. Is it the brain involved?
Well, you know, we've all heard of the Internet of Things, right? But we tend to think of it as devices talking to each other. But it's really an Internet of Things and people. And so we're constantly generating data, both through our active interaction through the Internet of Things as well as through passive monitoring. And we could be actually just data mining the existing data, and with data analytics, we could actually define healthy and maybe healthy aging. And so I think that's a whole emerging field where, you know, health data, and it's not population. We really want to know about you. I want to know what your behaviors are that are reflective of your brain health, because I mean, we think of the brain as being isolated. But if you think of, you know, non-communicable diseases kill 60%, are responsible for 60% of worldwide deaths, and that includes heart disease, diabetes, mental illness, and all of those things affect your brain, either directly, like things like dementia, or indirectly through medication or the effects of chronic disease. And one last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you get a word in edgewise. It's also affecting the caregivers. It's the second victim of chronic disease. Caregivers are actually impaired as well, even though they may not realize it.
How's that?
Well, so caregivers are under a lot of stress, and these are unpaid caregivers I'm talking about. Family members, usually their husband, wife, or a child. And so those the stress and the lack of sleep and lack of attention to one's own health, even though you might say you're generally healthy, certainly compared maybe to your loved one, when we measure the brain function of caregivers, it's actually, their cognition is impaired compared with healthy controls.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, up the road, you've been using an app to look at brain function of some of the people here. What have you been measuring?
So we've actually been highlighting the role of technology in measuring the healthy brain, because everyone here, most people here, self-identify as healthy. So we've been using the app that I mentioned, the Dana Brain Vital. That's a brain game, and you do several brain games, and that gives you a score on how well you do on the brain games, just on your phone, reaction time. You just press a game on your phone. But then we put on an EEG headset, and we actually measure your ability to focus and do a focused mind challenge using the emotive EEG headset. And then we combine the scores, and it goes up on the Davos Brain Challenge leaderboard.
Crikey. What can you do to improve your brain function?
Well, you know, there's the brain needs three basic things. It needs oxygen, so exercise. It needs nutrition, or nutrients, so healthy eating. But it also needs novelty. It needs stimulation. And novelty is a key thing for that. So whether you like brain games or learning a new skill or
language,
whatever it might be. You need to keep, and that's easy when we're young, but that gets harder as we get older. And so it gets harder and harder to remember, oh, I really do need to exercise and eat right and keep my brain active and do something new. So those are the 3 things. And there's lots of great resources out there to give people ideas of how to exercise their brain.
Cori, thank you so much for stopping by the Hub Culture Pavilion, and I'm Edie Lash.